All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Blue Grit Radio. And we talk a lot about a life of service. We talk a lot about what brings people into law enforcement, what they did beforehand, and all the traumas and stressors relating to this career. And so it brings me great pleasure and honor to bring you a guest, my friend, who is navigating it all, and he's continuing to work through it. And so he is here to share his insights and his story with us, and that is Chris Greenwade. Chris, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Hey, thanks, Eric. Proud to be here. Just thanks for reaching out, man, being a friend, and just always kind of checking in. And it's just a pleasure to be here and, uh, you know, have a chance to maybe help somebody else get through some stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad it's become commonplace that this is something that we're talking about. I'm talking about it with new folks coming in, whether they're applying, whether they're just following the page or listening in, or they're like my brand new recruits, like coming to the police department. Um, but yeah, man, we go back a number of years. I can't even pinpoint how many years it's been. It's been a while. It's been a while. Well, we met through our mutual friend, my coworker, and then we were lifting together at the same gym for a little bit.
Right, right.
Um, and then something happened. You started lifting somewhere else, and you got all jacked and shredded. And I probably should have just stopped what I was doing and started doing whatever you were doing at that point.
Oh, yeah, I don't even remember. I think I just was maybe a new 24 opened or something closer to the house. And then, yeah, then I got in the dungeon, bro. I was like, it's go time. It's go time.
Yeah, yeah, you flipped a switch, and maybe we'll talk about that too. Um, you know, anyone that knows anyone that's actually competed, like physique, bodybuilding, yeah, Chris did all that. So I mean, that's a upper level echelon of personal discovery and discipline. So I would not be surprised if we go there too. But yeah, Chris, if you want to just introduce yourself a little bit and talk about what got you into a life of service, and teaser alert. Little bit of military, and then law enforcement thereafter.
Yeah. It goes back to uh, probably just wanting to be a part of something bigger than me. Team. I grew up playing ball uh, ever since I was super young, so it's kind of that camaraderie type team, which then transitioned to, believe it or not, 13 years old. There was this show called New York Undercover. I don't know if you remember that one, but I, I,
No, not that one.
uh, I can't remember. It was a black dude, black bald dude, and then a Hispanic dude, and there were a couple of detectives in New York just running amok, like I mean Hollywood, getting into all the stuff, like just willing and dealing. And my best friend is
Yeah.
Hispanic, so my best friend Mike, he was the Hispanic dude, I was the black dude, and we were just like, in our heads, like, oh man, like that's super dope. And it was either I wanted to be a pro athlete or a cop, literally at 13 years old. And once I got as far as I could playing ball, I was like, okay, well, I'm too young to be a cop because I was 20, I think, at the time. And um, my uncle was like, hey, well, maybe go to the Marine Corps or something like that because, that would look good on your just growing up, just becoming a bit more of a man, having some structure. If you want to be a cop, like Marine Corps can probably help, guide you and assist you in that direction. So me and my
Yeah.
best friend Mike, we both joined the Marine Corps like on the same day, same unit, uh, and then did our thing. Went to Iraq, came back, and then that's after that point. That's when I started to apply at different agencies. So I started down in Southern California and got on with the Fontana Police Department for my first 3 years, and that was cool. But to kind of circle back to it was law enforcement was because I just wanted to help serve, be the hero, help the people in need, catch the bad guys, like all the things that Hollywood could even make it look like. Watching that show was like, I want to do that,
Hmm.
but you get there, detectives ain't really doing stuff like that. But it was cool to to like, to strive, for that thing. So that's what got me going with LE. So then it was down to Fontana PD, which was super cool. probably one of the best places to be a young cop, because it was,
Hmm.
what was it, 15, probably 16 years ago now. You can imagine, like, Wild West. I mean, dude, we were chasing
Wild
everybody.
West is a yeah, that's a phrase when people reminisce about whatever their golden years of police work is, and isn't that crazy that it has to be like wild and there's like crime and crazy stuff happening everywhere, chases. But yeah, I can certainly connect with that.
Yeah, it was that. So that was fun. But the other thing I thought was, okay, this is my career choice. I plan on doing this thing for 30 years, and I could not see how, uh, at the pace I was in Fontana, like, how am I? There is no way I can do this job for 30 years, because it was just, it was just so wild. And so
Hmm.
uh, and the big thing that kind of got me to move from there up to Washington area was, uh, gosh, we had got into a use of force at like a Super Bowl party. I can't remember what it was. It was maybe like Pittsburgh and the Cardinals, and uh, it was a big melee. Dude accused us of all kinds of things and huge IA and all this stuff. And so I lived in Fontana and I worked in Fontana, and we were at the I was at the Chevron gas pump. Got my baby in there. I can't remember how old, maybe 3 months or so. My wife's in the passenger seat. I'm going to get gas, and pulls up, gets out of the car. Right next to me is is that dude that we had arrested and caused all that issue. And so I kind of like didn't freeze up, but I'm like, okay, let me slowly get back in here, get out of the car, and then let's jam. And my wife was like, "What was that about?" I'm just like, I got far enough and was like, "Hey, that was the guy that we got to that big fight with." This. So it was just like, it was that moment where I was like, "Dude, I can't be living in the same city that I'm policing," because that was kind of scary, and didn't know what that outcome could have been had something gone wrong. And so, uh, my
Yeah, were
wife
you
had went,
recognized by the guy?
and I don't think he did. I don't think he recognized me,
Okay.
because luckily it was at night. So I just kind of maybe had that on my side too, to where he didn't see
Mm,
me during the day. Uh, and like, I don't
yeah.
think we went to court or anything like that. So luckily he didn't recognize me, but I wasn't waiting, Eric. I wasn't gonna like, hey,
Yeah.
1,000, 2, and like, nope. I'm like, pop smoke
Mm,
right now. We're out of here. Uh,
yeah.
and then my wife went to Seattle U, and so we took a couple trips up to the Northwest. And I always joke, it probably wasn't August, but I'm always like, oh, August day 85,
The perfect
all the
Northwest
green,
day. Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
water, like, oh yes, let's do it. So then we started the process of moving up there, and then I got picked up with Renton PD and kind of started that journey.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm gonna zigzag around a little bit. You hit on a few
Yep.
things I just want to
Okay.
ask you about, but yeah, because so many people, so many listeners are the younger, newer demographic coming in, maybe considering military career pre law enforcement because of their age or because they want to develop and they're not really excited about other job opportunities. Um, what would you say were some of your biggest takeaways from joining the Marine Corps?
Oh, well, it's the greatest branch in the world, so there's that to start. and
There's that.
uh, yeah, but the biggest takeaway was just really, uh, gosh, I was a young kid, single mom, didn't really know much about anything, and so I got in there, and it was just complete, like, structure, like like human being structure. Like, we're going to strip you down of all your bad habits and all this stuff, and we're gonna, pretty much turn you into this quote unquote fighting machine. But in that process, there's just so much discipline, so much in the lines. I mean, just all the structure of like creating, creating a Marine. But there's a lot of attention to detail and a lot of like just, you just have to like walk that straight line. And so when you're just chasing, chasing that straight line. It's just a lot of, you're so in between the, everything is structured, 4 a.m. every day, down to bed at 9 p.m. I mean, just like complete structure of, and I just, I felt like I was willy nilly before that, like I was just kind of doing my own thing. My mom was working all the time. So I was out playing ball, hanging out with friends, just completely free to,
Hmm.
13 weeks of like, aye, sir, and position of attention, and just the PT, just all of it. So I think the biggest part was it turned me into like a little man. If the, I'm not saying like this man, but it really like made me like kind of get serious about, just me
Yeah.
as an individual, and just like
Yeah.
complete structure of like, okay, this is now, I learned a lot. I grew up a lot in those 13 weeks. And now I feel like I have, uh, like, yes, I do, because I'm thinking that police is, like a military type system. So I'm like, well, that I'm ready to now try to transition into that, because I feel like I'm, built up enough, as a young man to actually go take that serious type of job.
Yeah, it's like a manhood starter pack at least, right? So got you
Right.
started on the right foot, got you super disciplined, really regimented. And I'll say this because yourself and a couple other guests, one that I just recorded, one coming on, actually a couple I just recorded, with a military background, and so there's a lot of conversations about what's the best route, and I'll just plug what I've said before, which is coming from the hiring side and coming from the training side. It's like whatever you feel most passionate about, whatever you want to do. Don't hear all these examples of military and think that's the way you need to go. For sure everyone's different, and so as
Mhm.
far as like what you bring to the table, it might be that, it might be something else.
Right. Absolutely.
Um, so Fontana, you're 3 years there, and you're a young man. What It's interesting. I love that you had the awareness and the responsible thinking to say, "Hey, this is probably not sustainable at this pace." The danger, and now you're running in with people that you arrested. That is definitely a very uncomfortable feeling. And then the longevity piece, right? It's not something that typically, guys in their 20s or even early 30s really think about. So, have you thought about what helped you recognize um, that thinking long term?
Oh, I don't, it wasn't nothing to it, because no, there wasn't a mentor that told me something or anything. It was just me realizing, like, okay, this 3 years was crazy. And I just don't know how I can go another 27 at this pace. Like, I'm
Yeah,
just, like nobody said that, but it was just me, like, how? Like, how? Like,
yeah,
this is a crazy 3 years. How do I continue to do this for years and years? Like, you would, one would have to get burnt out. So it's just kind of like a, like a guess, like, for me as an individual, like, dude, I will burn out at this pace. Like, and it's cool now, it's
yeah,
fun now, but I can't. What, 5 years from now? Like, I'm gonna be like just fall over. Like, I'm like, wow, this is too much. So, but then then you can.
yeah.
But even like young me, Erica, wasn't thinking like, oh well, like everybody else does. Detectives, and you can go do this
Mm,
or try. It was just, I
yeah,
didn't even. I was still wet behind the ears and was thinking, oh, 30 years of patrol. you know.
yeah. But I think it's still wise. I think it's still, I think it shows your maturity and just at least intuition, because that is something I worry about, guys and gals getting into a busier department, higher crime areas, and we definitely know a lot about that. So, no, that's good insight for sure. So tell me about coming up to Renton, and what the career felt like at that point, and some of your highlights there.
I'm up to Renton. Just the hiring process to start. Had put the app in at several different places, and Renton just really felt like home. Uh, from just the jump, from the initial interviews, and just kind of felt like people were excited to see me there, and just so it was a lot different. It was the place that I was hoping to get hired with, and I did, and just Um, yeah, it was a good time, good department. But highlight, of course, is the best job in police work. I mean, you know as well as
Mm,
I do. Running a dog
yeah.
is running a dog is second to none. So that's that's definitely the highlight because of then you have that resurgence of like how I talked about. Oh well, you know, Fontana was so crazy and so busy. But now when you get that dog, you're like,
Hmm.
dude, everybody call. Like the cool thing about being a Valley Canine is
Hmm.
like you're dealing with everybody's problems, and the
Yeah.
the cool thing to saying, and I think maybe you said it or we've heard it in a training before, but like it's real when like Federal Way calls 911 for the canine unit to show up. Like even the police got to call
Hmm.
911, which is
Yeah.
us and those dogs rolling up to come help out whatever we got
Yeah.
to help out. So yeah, running
Hmm.
running my dog, man, that was by far 8 years of that, and that was just it's it, it's such a blur. There's so many cool calls
Yeah.
and stuff like that, but it was really outside of like really helping some people, and stuff like that, like on regular calls and stuff like that. And the community, I liked the diversity of the community. It was a little bit more diverse than Fontana, so just all those things. But it was running a dog for 8 years. That 8 year window was my sweetest spot of the 15 years.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people will be able to attest that I have nothing but good things to say about Renton. It's actually one of a few places I'll actively pitch our applicants to. Maybe the speed of HR is different. Maybe they can get their foot in the door quicker. Um, but yeah, it's certainly nothing but good things to say about them and the guys and gals that work there. Very similar departments for sure with mine. So yeah,
Right.
Canine Man. We did overlap some time, and I think that there's a lot to be said for that. It's not just what's going on in your town, but the actually around the county. And sometimes I left my county. I don't know if you had many times of that.
Yeah, I was up in what is North Bend is still king.
That's
But
still King. Yeah, it's
I
pretty deep though. Yeah.
Fife in Tacoma. I think Fife a
Mm-hmm.
couple times and down to Tacoma.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I was in Pierce. I think I even went to Puyallup one time for whatever reason. So
Yeah.
yeah, which is
Yeah.
deep. It's like
Um,
a 40-minute code run. you know,
when the sirens actually get old and you kind of get bored and you're kind of just driving with one hand and you're like, oh, the siren is so loud. It says a lot, right? And you're just in that
right?
carpool lane and kind of ebbing the shoulder here and there. But yeah, I think it's somebody said too, is like, I think a good portion of our career, there weren't that many canine teams. And the applications were much higher as far as the type of crimes you would actively put out and the types of violent crimes. Um, so yeah, you're just busy, and yeah,
Hmm.
when people really need a dog, man, they're gonna keep calling farther and farther, and dispatch centers will keep calling farther and farther until they get a dog. Because sometimes it is quicker just to get someone from 40 minutes away than call one at home that has to drive home and get geared up and come back out and all that whole thing. So
Right.
yeah, definitely the highest highs and the lowest lows. I think that's a common adage in canine.
Yes. 100%. I miss it. That's the one
Yeah,
thing I
man.
miss about it.
Hmm. Yeah, we won't go there. I said we
Yeah.
won't go there.
Yeah.
For the listeners, it is a sensitive thing. Um, when you start thinking about your career as a canine handler, and one day you do lose your dog, and so um, that is the one thing I will not ask you about at this point in time, Chris.
No,
Um,
appreciate it.
so let's switch the subject real quick. And so you're on with an awesome team, but you start talking about a little bit, right? You go for a little bit. A less crazy pace, but here you are. And sometimes I think I have a theory that there are those people that'll keep finding the chaos somehow. Um, Maybe you're just a hard charger, you're a hard worker, and you deeply care about doing the most you can in your community. But it takes a certain kind of person to join the Marine Corps as opposed to every other branch, and then to
Right.
work in the Wild West, as you say, and then go to a department where there might not be as much crazy crime, but here you are in a unit that is specifically uh, deployed and called out for those crazy crimes where otherwise someone would have gotten away or someone's holed up in a house and that whole thing. So talk me
Right.
through that.
Yeah, it's funny because now that you kind of said that about like, sometimes it just finds certain cops, and I remember at Fontana, like one of the 12-year vets or something, he's like, dude, you're like the black cloud. And I'm like, what does that mean? He's like, you just get into all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to be the black cloud. Like, I want, I want no parts of this cloud. You know?
You're the magnet, as they say, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And, uh, and I think even getting into canine, it didn't really register to me like how busy I was going to be, or how like, like everybody's most violent stuff, for the job. Like your job is
Mm-hmm.
to handle, for the most part, especially when we were running on days. I mean, you were calling me once a week. Like it's just
Yeah.
it was super busy, but it's the it's the highs. You can have the lows, right? To where like you're busy, nothing, 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 nothing. You can go 20 tracks, strike out, whatever, mess it up, whatever went wrong. Wish the dog could tell me that I pulled him the wrong direction and he really wants to go that way. It would be awesome. But,
Mm-hmm.
as I know, number 21, when it's a capture, you're like, did we even strike out 20 times? Like, because you're just,
Yeah.
so fired up and just hits that reset, dude. And you're just out there looking for the next time like that. So, uh, and I guess it was because Fontana was so busy, like I could just, like I've been there, done that. So like, oh, I'm not getting overwhelmed at canine because first off, I just love finding bad guys with my dog. Like there's nothing like it. And then I just could go to that place of like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, Fontana was super busy. This is just kind of like that window again, and and it didn't bother me. I was just able to kind of keep that pace because we were a good team, and the reward of catching guys was cool. Like even
Yeah.
I remember, and like when you like I remember Bellevue. I think I caught like Bellevue must have called 4 times, and we had literally 4 captures. And to where like I would show
Oh
up and they're
wow.
like, "Oh yeah, you guys catch everybody. Like call them every time." It's just like it was that sweet window of like when even an agency's like, "Oh, call freaking Greenwade and Titan because those dudes catch everybody." And
Mm-hmm.
then you go strike out like 10 times, and you're like, "Oh yeah, just we're
Oh,
just a
for
normal team."
sure. And you have to celebrate those wins. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, another saying that I remember was, you're only as good as your last track, and so much you had to really train, and it's a reminder that you couldn't slack, and you had to make sure you're on top of it, and your crew's on top of it. It's a team thing, right? You got to set up containment, but then I don't think we do a good enough job celebrating our wins. So that is one nugget I want to throw out to the cops out there, the newer cops. But you're gonna if you think about it as something as visual as canine, but even in your career, I mean, there's going to be so many people that get away with stuff. They might outrun you. You might not be legally allowed to chase them. There's going to be a lot that get away, and so you can't focus all on that. You got to focus on the wins. Um, Maybe they're not super frequent. When you have a slam dunk case, and you can't be worried about the minutia of what happens to that afterwards. You have to focus on what you did, that you did everything you could to affect the situation the best you could, and you have to be okay with that, or else it gets to be way too burdensome.
absolutely, absolutely. You just can't. But some do. You got some, you know, uh,
Yeah, it's hard
guys
not
that like to
to.
see it all the way to the bank and are checking to see if he got charged in court. Like all those things. Like you can't get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just do as much as you can do, celebrate that win, and let's carry on because there's 100 more people out there breaking the law. So let's
Yeah.
pivot and let's just go help the next person. So yeah, you can't. But they, like you said, some people can't help themselves. But you got to uh, just kind of let that stuff go and definitely celebrate the victories. And I would say for supervisors as well, like making sure too that uh, you celebrate those victories for your guys, because some won't, some really don't care, but maybe a good side for some supervisors or anybody in those leadership roles listening, like, make sure that you champion those guys, because the job's tough. The job's tough,
Hmm.
and if we're not celebrating, or coworkers not giving us a high five, or Sarge isn't freaking patting you on the back, like, just kind of weighs on you.
Yeah. We all as creatures, whether we think we do or whether certain people say they do or not, we need some validation, right? We need to
Yep.
be knowing that we're doing a good job. But more so, we just need to feel valued, and that can come in different ways. And right, so
Mm-hmm.
it could be words, it could be how you feel, whether people actually do treat you like a valued member of your team. So yeah, that's huge. Um, and Chris knows what's up. I mean, Chris was, basically on deck, to be a supervisor, right? An acting supervisor all the time, a sergeant. And so I want to go into that, the more recent phase of your career, and let's talk about stress, and let's talk about trauma and how that's been affecting you.
Oh, let me see. Um, Gosh, they've always been there. Those stressors, probably. I think that early on, uh, just because you're so excited, you're jamming. It's just you're just running and catching everybody, just having all the fun. Like, it doesn't really process. So you might have some traumatic stuff that you just like, boop, let's store that away in this Ziploc bag. Let's store that away. Like, let's just not ever start to deal with that stuff. And that was kind of me for probably 12 years, maybe, of like really not ever dealing with anything. And, when we get some high stress from, running the dog, uh, supervisor, and getting into, Renton and Kent, we got it's not the crazy, but like we get the fair share of like some good stuff, we get in some
Yeah.
good trauma situations and some good stress situations. But what I always go back to, it was like, as I was coming forward and kind of talking to people, I remember the first time that I went to uh, a counselor's office. Like, my wife is saying that she just sees a lot of change in me and this and that, and I'm starting to kind of notice it once she kind of put it out there, like, hey, you're kind of, you're drinking a little bit more, you're a little bit irritated, you're kind of yelling out in your sleep, some stuff, like, don't know what's going on. Oh, I'm fine, I'm fine.
Hmm.
And then I finally go to talk to somebody who then tells me I'm fine. Like, oh yeah, you're fine. And so that was like a 5 year shut off, Eric, of like, oh, like, okay, well, I'm clearly just being, I'm just being I'm not trying to say any foul words, but I'm just being like a little bee or something, because it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be a sissy. They told me I'm fine. That's
Yeah.
right, I'm fine. I'm a Marine.
Well, that's
At no
professional, right? And
Right,
yeah, it's hard enough to even go talk to someone. There's stigmas, and it's hard to do anything different, right? And then you gotta,
right.
this is the professional that says you're good. You're like, man, it must be just me. Like, I must be in my head, right?
Hmm. Yeah. And so I think maybe about 4 or 5 years passed after that, and then it was just like more decline, more more mood, more down, uh, more drinking, uh, and drinking and drinking. Like my self medication was that of just alcohol, kind of to wash it away. Um,
Hmm.
because I remember, uh, I didn't drink before Iraq or even after, but I take that back. After, when I was like, man, I'm feeling this type of way, and just it got back, and somebody's just like, bro, just like have a drink and chill, like it helps me, and I'm like, oh really? Like, okay. And so that's when that started for me. So I was like, oh, okay, if I'm starting to have think of these situations from even Iraq, and it's like, okay, well, the booze calms me down, and that was just like all I knew. I didn't. Again, I'm not gonna go talk to somebody, and when I finally did, they were like, oh no, you're fine. And so that just started to really just pile up. It really, really started to pile up on me where um, the I started to kind of freeze up, and I'm probably pivoting from what we're talking about, but the when the true stress and me being like scared and trying to hide it and not wanting to say anything was when I started to have flashbacks of like Iraq. But I have this freeze up moment of like, okay, super traumatic scene, and I'm like, I feel like I'm frozen, and I can't process. Like it's this moment of like, where am I at right now? It was super weird, and that happened a few times, but I never said anything because I was just like, oh, that's the type of talk that they're gonna take your gun, dude. Like you better keep that to yourself. Like that's crazy talk, you know?
Yeah.
They're gonna freaking
Mm.
take you to the mental ward. So I'm like, yeah, keep that to myself. And I did, and I was so afraid of it happening again and being like, okay, so now Chris, the next time you freeze up is you're not gonna be able to watch your partner six, you get hurt, citizen gets hurt, your partner gets hurt because you're not dealing with these things that's going on with you. And that was the big part that really brought in a lot of stress for me. And then it was even more so of the drinking. That was just my thing. I just kind of hid in the bottle, in those moments.
Hmm.
My relationship with my family started to change. Uh, me and my wife. It was just me. I'm not being open, right? I'm just keeping it to myself. Uh, Not even really want to be bothered with my kids. All the stuff that kind of hurts deep down, and then I
Hmm.
feel from that I feel down and sad and depressed because I'm like, dude, like it's just your kids being kids and you're overreacting to everything. And it's all these things like your wife just asking a simple question and you bite her head off, like, and I'm like, I know that's wrong. I feel it coming, and yet I can't contain it. And so it's just this lash out, and that hurt me uh, deep down, which then kind of made me kind of curl up in a ball, like emotionally and feelings, and I'm just going to be angry at everything and not kind of deal with how I'm feeling or with wanting to talk to anybody or those type of things. So I really just hung on to that emotion of, well, I know how to be angry, right? I know how to be a tough guy. I know how to be mad. I know how to be angry. And, I got the Marine Corps. I got the police stuff. I know what angry looks like. I can just I can hide everything in my anger, which was completely wrong because uh, that's what kind of had me like, melt down, like really where uh I couldn't physically even where I'm at now, like just even try to do the job. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it just really, really shut me down until, it just all kind of came out, and I had no control over it. And then uh yeah, I don't know. I know I'm freaking spinning all over the place. Just put me back in line.
No, you're good. You're covering a lot of ground, and so I guess to kind of kind of dive back or rewind a little bit, you found the drinking first, and then that's a very common, I guess, release valve, coping mechanism, and then even to the point where we can call it self-medicating in first responders. And it's not just military, police, it's not just firefighters, it's corrections and dispatch and EMS, right? So we know this to be true. Um, have you any thoughts about people that listening in kind of evaluating maybe for themselves of whether what they're doing is your quote unquote healthy, your quote unquote normal range, or whether they need to key in on something that might be that it's taken away a lot more than it might be contributing?
Oh, let me see. I think you have to get to a point where you have to kind of look in the mirror and you have to have some clarity. I know it's kind of tough because I don't even remember uh, having clarity the last several years on the job. It was, me because I guess it's okay. So it's no longer frowned upon, and it's okay to actually go and talk to somebody if you need to talk to somebody. So you can just simply start there, right? And they're actually going to applaud you for doing that. Now, how much you want to say or take away from, a psychiatrist or a counselor or somebody that's ready to help you, or even a peer support member, you know, I think you just start there, and that maybe can now you can get some tips and some stuff from from the pros and the people that have kind of been there. So for me,
Mhm.
Eric, it was just really I really didn't have clarity about anything really, other than the trauma and the stress and the anger and all those things. It was once um, work was like, hey, you're dealing with these things, take a break. And then once I was like, oh, I don't have to go back in tomorrow, like in the stressors of that, or I don't have to, hear tones or all these things, like, you know, a couple weeks out, I was like, whoa, I was like, shoot, like I'm actually was dealing with a lot of those things, but I just couldn't see it while I was in between the lines. Like I could not see it. I had to be pulled out for a moment to then look back in and be like, look how this is affecting you. Talking to somebody's actually a good thing. It's
Mhm.
not frowned upon anymore. And yeah, I just wasn't able to see it until then, until I actually was forced to take some days off, talk to somebody. Then I kind of had some clarity and kind of let my guard down. When you find the right person to talk to too. So not everybody's going to be, the right person. Like I said before, the first lady I went to was like, "Oh, you're fine, nothing's wrong with you," and then that was a 4 or 5 year setback. So I would just say,
Mhm.
uh, if you're dealing with some things, it's okay to talk to somebody about it. It's okay to have feelings as a Marine, as a male, as a cop, as a, all those things. Like it's luckily 2023 now, so I would just say uh, that it's okay. Like it's okay.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. And so, what I'm hearing is that you needed to find clarity, and a few things helped that, right? And although the first interaction didn't help, your counselor or whatnot, um, I mean, then maybe that brings up the notion of it's worth getting a second opinion, right? And so if you feel like something if you're questioning whether you should go talk to someone, then that's probably a significant enough of a clue that it won't hurt. And then if you
Right.
don't like what they say for whatever reason, talk to someone else, right? And it's just like medical doctors, and not there's huge polar opposites in practice and opinions. Um, if you're worried about what Chris talked about earlier, as far as like that notion of, man, I'm in this state of disarray, and I I'm terrified that I could lose my job. I'm terrified that I could have my gun taken and my badge, and it's this huge sense of identity. And we barely even cracked into that, but like it's your livelihood, right? It's your family. You got people depending on you. Um, Please consider something, right? Whether it's peer support, like Chris mentioned, or in our region we have Code 4 Northwest, and you could even call in and say, "Hey, I'm a first responder. I don't want to say my name. I just want to keep this anonymous. I just need to get some stuff off my chest, and I'm curious what thoughts you have." Right? And these are volunteers. These are peer support peeps. Um, Again, you can choose your level of comfort, and so I think that's very case dependent, and it's definitely worth trying something. And I'm glad you're able to get that clarity, man. One of my questions I was going to ask is like, how did you find it? And if I'm correct, let me know if I'm wrong. But it sounds like you needed to be taken out of that pattern, taken just some time away, just to actually have a breath and actually have a moment to reflect.
That's that's absolutely it. I remember, uh, gosh, it was probably like 10 days, Eric, maybe 12, and I was sitting back and I was with my family, and I was like, wow, I feel like I see you guys for the first time, like in years. Like I've just been in this this go 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 blur of you know police work and how fast paced that can be, and everything, you know police work getting my absolute best, right? And I had nothing left for my family, so all they saw was dad's drinking, dad's moody, dad's just so mean, dad's all these things, and then to actually, I think one of my daughters might have said like, oh, I think to my wife, like dad's a lot nicer now, like all of it, just, which then again, right? Oh, down, even more down, like shoot, like my kid just went to my wife and was like, oh, dad seems to be nicer now that he, hasn't
Mm-hmm.
been going to do police work. And I'm just like, oh, like dude, like wow, so it was just stepping away from it, and it's a lot of reflection, right? You the head is full of all this chatter and all the things, and I should have never said anything, and I should have just toughed it out, and I'm letting my guys down, and I need to be at work and this and that, but I had to really, and that was probably the first time, it's like, oh hey, family first, family first, family first, but it wasn't family first for me for a lot of years.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't. Yeah, family got the raw end of the stick. I kept up appearances and everything else for the job, coworkers in the city, and then my family kind of got the rough end of that. So in that moment of being away from it, uh, that's when I was like, wow, okay, I need to figure this out. I need to get some help. I need to make some changes. Don't know what they are, but like I'm all in because seeing my family for the first time in a long time felt nice as a father.
Yeah, that's huge, and this is not uncommon, right? That people that are so duty bound and service bound come to careers like this, and they see the violence, they see the hurt and the crime out there, and they plug in. And when you are stressed, when you have a lot going on, then you have limited resources. I mean, you literally have limited bandwidth to apply your faculties and your energy towards anything. And then so when you're at work, self-preservation or conditioning, a combo of things, you need to be more dialed in, right? You need to be alert, you need to be engaged, and you need to be representing the badge and the uniform, right? So you mentioned it, but that's exactly how I would imagine you, right? Which is, no one's really suspecting anything of Chris because he's got a smile on his face. He's everybody's friend. He's this consummate positive image in the community and how to do policing and working hard, like literally running and gunning, right, and work and just grinding, right. And then when you come home, like you just don't have anything left, especially because you're dealing with all that struggle. And this is something that I know a lot of men and women have gone through, and I know a lot of men and women continue to go through. So, uh, I really just appreciate you packaging that and explaining through that. So, again, just like we say, and we need to continue to say it, but you're not alone in the struggle. If you hear this and you're struggling, um, take time. You need to decompress, and yeah, you need to focus in on your family and on you. You can't take care of others if you're not taking care of yourself.
Correct. And even with the piggyback off that, Eric, and not even realizing the clarity thing, right? So at the same time, Mr. Bodybuilder, workout guy, all these things, found himself
Hmm.
48 pounds overweight. 48 pounds overweight because I was, you know, drinking and eating my emotions pretty much and couldn't figure out how to, uh, really like jumpstart my motivation, or I'm just getting my body back in gear because now it's like, damn, I used to look like that. I'm trying to get back there. I can't. Nothing's moving. And no, then you have the mindset of like, oh well, I'm just a dad now, so like those days are done. It's just all these things. So it's like, oh, and then
Hmm.
it's just, and so a good friend of mine, who's also a mentor to me now, during that process of me having that struggle, um, he just kind of was like, hey, dude, you know, Katie's been messaging me, and she knows that he's this, this health coach and helps a lot of people with mindset and with even getting their weight off and financial freedom, like all these things. And she knew that, and she was constantly like, Jamil, can you just like reach out to Chris? And I wasn't there, dude. So like, we go back. He's my friend, and it just was like ignoring his texting everything because I just couldn't I had nothing left, right? It was the job. I had nothing left for even friends or anything. And so finally, when I just when that hit that 48th pound, I was like, okay, I know Jamil does some health. He's a health coach or something. Let me just, let's talk to this dude. So we got on a call, and he actually was telling me like how he'd think I would be a good health coach, just from the way I am and the people I know and the in shape and this and
Mm-hmm.
that. And he didn't know I was 48 pounds overweight because, you know,
Mm.
what do? Social media turns into photo from the chin up and just you're not trying to
Mm-hmm.
show that you just are melting away. And so he was just getting me like, hey, dude, like if you come health coach, which means we can do this thing together and we'll get you simply away from working so much overtime. Like that's what the thing was, like just a little bit more
Uh,
freedom for the family. Like let's just fill
mm-hmm.
this space with, kind of like the side gig, right? Let's fill this space with just helping some people get healthy. And I was like, dude, uh, I'm the guy that needs to get healthy. Like I can't even. And then so we went
Mm.
through, kind of like the same thing. I'm like, dude, I've slipped on this, the stress, the trauma, the alcohol, the relationships, like all the things are failing. And so he was like, oh shoot, like I had no idea. And so he ended up helping me get healthy, and in the process of losing my weight and getting back, and then 48 pounds down, feeling like my old self again. That's like when true clarity in that moment was like, oh, like all the things, right? I'm trying to get the mental side of stuff and figuring out the trauma and all this stuff, and what comes with that is a lot of the releasing 48 pounds, dude, and the doctor saying, okay, you no longer need to be possibly put on blood pressure medication or cholesterol, all that stuff. So I was like, oh, like I'm getting myself back, body wise, mentally trying to get back. So I'm super thankful, even to that dude, because he really, really helped, pull me out of that muck. Also, kind of like almost kind of, working as a counselor and a mentor that way too, helping, pull me back up on my feet. Like, hey, maybe law enforcement isn't for you anymore, and maybe this is something that you can pivot to do, and you'd be good at it, type deal. So that's what that was one of those other things was, as we talked about, so afraid of change or anything else, but to be like, oh, okay, we actually could do something else. Like this is not, I don't have to grin and bear this, until I can retire and hopefully even make it there. So yeah,
Yeah.
super thankful for that.
Well, thank you for that. Um, yeah, one of my questions was going to be um, how did you come to work with Jamil, right? And so you hit that, and I didn't know you guys went way back. I just I've seen you talking about him and sharing content with him, and so I think that's fantastic, and it really illustrates what's helped you in this road of resilience and on to the next chapter. I think that you recognize this, but so much of healthy mind requires healthy body, and vice versa, right? And
Right.
you're that positive energy or positive guy, and now with everything getting back on track and moving forward, truly, like you're going to be able to help as a health coach so much more significantly than someone who's never fought that hard road, mentally or physically, right? Like you can
Right.
read things in books, but you have someone that just had like the some people are kind of, as soon as they hit puberty, they have like the 8 pack and then they never lost it. Maybe they went to like a 12 pack. And so like that's cool and all. Like you can get a lot of sweet reels going with your shirt off, but like are you really geared, or do you have the insight to help people get where they need to go? Have you ever fought those battles physically, mentally? So man, I think
Right.
it's a perfect fit for you, knowing you well and seeing what you've worked through and continue to work through.
Yeah, no, appreciate it, Eric. Yeah, it's it's a new type of service, right? I'm a service dude, Marine Corps service,
Hmm.
police work service, and now this is a different type of. I always joke, I'm like, it's nice to be uh, clients now. Clientele is like, hey, I want to see you, help me, thank you. it's a lot, it's a lot different from the
Mm-hmm.
police clientele that we know so well, to where nobody really wants to be calling 911 or really wants to see you when you show up because they're having a bad day. So it just kind of, in a different aspect, helping people just get their lives back and get whatever they can squeeze out of this little short life that we have. So that's been super rewarding in the process.
Yeah, I love that, and I love that as I see it, all of your experiences better inform your ability to be a coach, right? Whether
Right.
that's someone with the same experiences or whether that's just someone totally different, right? Someone with a corporate career can definitely sympathize with work taking over too much of their lives. Being on the work phone or being on emails when they're trying to hang out with their kids, so they're not actually present. Like that, that translates to so many walks of life, especially more than ever in this day and age where we are so accessible. So when is our time off truly time off? Um, yeah, man. And
Right.
so, I have this theme of identity, and I know that it's a struggle for a lot of people as they reflect on their first responder career or they reflect on changes. And you're going through this transition now to new identity and new roles, and hopefully they're not separate. I hear and feel that they're very much connected. But any thoughts or insights for those as that have helped you in kind of embracing and moving into this new chapter?
Oh man, it's tough because it still feels, I still have my moments where and it's probably once a week, dude, where I'm like, it's identity crisis, like still, like I'm still kind of feel like I'm in the thick of it. It's been a little over it. No, it's about a year and some change since I was actually out on patrol, and so I still feel it's still fresh to me. I just still feel like, even though I'm health coaching and doing these things and helping people, but like this is new. This is new. My identity the last 18 years was Marine Corps and police work. Like
Hmm.
that's all I knew when I became a quote unquote little man, as we were saying. My starter kit.
Hmm.
Right after I got my
Yeah.
starter kit, it was all I knew for the next 18 years. So I'm still trying to do this civilian transition, and maybe it's uh the traumas and the stress and all the stuff that I'm still working through. Like I see, you know I and I'm wondering, I see my counselor like once, sometimes twice a week, and sometimes I'm like, I don't want to go, because I'm like, it keeps stirring everything up every week, and I'm like, man, I just need like a month of not going to the counselor to see, because it's like, is that what's keeping me, just kind of like, hey, I just
Hmm.
need to like release it. But I don't think it ever will, because I said, just my young adult life is so much life in that 18 years of, once a Marine, always a Marine, once a cop, dude, always a cop, especially after 15 years. So it's still a lot of that. But what I will say is that on the upside, uh, health coaching and helping people and becoming a civilian is giving me this new, like, I completely forgot how to be a civilian. And so now it's this,
Hmm.
like, retraining myself. So it's almost like this fun side of, hey, I have to work in this new realm of being a civilian. I can't just, tackle guys to the ground and throw them handcuffs and say, oh, no, we're going to get healthy. Eat this stuff right here. It's just like,
Hmm.
it's a lot of trying to just navigate uh, all that. But if you do, I'm better for it. So one listening is like, oh, well, maybe he's still having a hang up and he still wants to be doing the job. No, I know that I physically, mentally, well, physically could probably still do the job, but mentally I can't. And when your mental is, the body's not functioning if the mental's not functioning. So I so I could say mentally and physically I can't do the job anymore. But finding clarity with my family, and then this health coaching, I'm able to, it's all good. Like one listening, I'm like, I'm better for it. I'm just dealing with my stuff still. But one looking in, like, no, that's what it is. Like it's good. It's fun. This new life is good. My wife's happy. My kids are happy. I'm happier, but I have my own moments of like, once a cop, always a cop, still on high alert, still watching my six, still doing all the things, which are good things because, right, you're just really keeping you and yours safe in that moment. So I can't get upset that I'm constantly on high alert because that's a good thing,
Hmm.
So you just, when you
Yeah,
notice that that's a good thing, you're going to be that way, just deal with it.
I think that's inspiring, and I think that that's a goal that we should all have um, in our sights. So anyone that's a first responder, I think that what Chris said, as far as learning to be a civilian, for some of us that might be this year, and some of us that might be in 20 years. But that should be an absolute goal and necessity that we get there. And I'm excited to get there. I'm excited at one point I'm going to hang this up, and whether that's in 2 years or whether that's in 15, I hope that I have fun, and I hope that I'm humbled in that process. I hope that it's exciting and invigorating to feel this release of burden, which I would hope that is part of it. Um, I also hope and ask people to consider, what are you doing or what are you not doing right now in your life that might mean learning to become a civilian could be really hard versus easy, right? So,
Right.
and part of that's being able to turn it off to some degree. I'll share a quick story in that years ago, when I was a single dude, but I was traveling with some friends in Thailand, and we were reflecting on our trip. We were on the beach, and it was evening time, and it was kind of like, man, awesome trip, just eye opening and just life changing in some ways, and just this fantastic time with close, lifelong friends. And you're kind of just like, sipping on a beer on the beach, like watching the people getting the warmth and the energy. And I was on my phone earlier that day, and I was looking at the time I was subscribing to ODMP, which is a Officer Down Memorial page,
Okay.
and I was on social media earlier that day too. So that day, I found out that 3 officers had been killed in duty, and I also learned that one of my close friends at work, they lost their child in childbirth. They had a stillborn baby, and so here I was, living it up on the beach in Thailand with my friends, but I could not shake this feeling that I was not there to support my friend, and I felt like I was not there at work, and anything could happen to one of my guys or one of my buddies at any moment. And I share that to say that we have these deep ties through identity, but it was certainly unfair to me. And I think part of why I even remember this whole thing is because I snapped at one of my friends, kind of like you're talking about, right? Like, it's just your kids being kids, but it was just my friends just asking me just a conversation. It wasn't even like heated. It was just asking me a question, and then I kind of just snapped. Um, I lost it. I got super emotional. I stormed off the beach. And this is not me, for those listening. This is not characteristic of me, just like that wasn't characteristic of you, Chris, interacting with your family or kids that way. But this job can have such a impact where we need to pay close attention to these moments. Because this was a moment for me that shared that, or you know, informed that I was not processing things in a healthy way, and I was not appropriately assigning responsibilities and burdens in an appropriate way. So, sorry to diatribe too long there,
No.
but a little bit of connection back and just saying, hey, there's a lot we could do in our day to day, our habits, our mindset, to make sure that we are living the best way, um, on time on, time off as well.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for the share. I didn't know that, but uh, you're right. It catches you, and if you never have any clarity in your life, and you're clouded by the alcohol, by the dealing with stress with the food, by all those things that can help you just kind of push all that stuff down, you end up snapping, not one, and don't even know why. and
Hmm.
and you're caught up in it because you don't ever give yourself a chance to have some clarity because of, you refuse to, deal with what's going on in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so turn it back to your positive movement, your positive coaching. Tell us a little bit more about what you're doing, what you do, and we'll go from there.
Man, so yeah, now it's all about trying to, we kind of call it like a transformational health coach, right? So it's mind, body, uh, and then the financial burden that some people may have. So we can help in a lot of different places. So, uh, the big start is, uh, we just help people find out why, right? So why are we? Why did you reach out to me? Why are we on the phone? What do you need? And so you can actually get some people to peel back some stuff of, whatever, just all the things that brought them to become overweight, how they can't get the weight off, and how they don't think they can, so their mindsets are also shot. And so we have a system that helps you uh, get your weight off quickly. Okay, so we help you move the weight off quickly. It's eating 6 times a day and getting 100 ounces of water in. Okay, as you know, Eric, we're getting you in the fat burn, we're getting the metabolism
Mm.
going, and I think when that stuff starts to happen, you get this mindset victory of, okay, I'm finally starting to get this weight off. And now it's this transition of what we call as a life book. And the life book breaks down all these things on the mindset, right? The emotional eating, the your relationship with food, like all that stuff. Like if you really want to dive in and change your habits and change your life, like it's the full transformational system. So we can help you get the weight off, but without changing your mindset and believing that you can do it and holding on to whatever that why is. I want to look sexier for my spouse. I want to fit in this wedding dress that I got. I want to chase my kids up the stairs without having to stop halfway through and because I'm out of breath,
Hmm.
or my grandkids, all those things. So it's really helping people get themselves back in control of their life. We only got one, and we just really hone in on that thing. So why are we even here? Let's really let's really like cement that in stone, like on your chest, like this is why. So we can always revert back to this is why. This is why you want to get 80, 60, 100 pounds off, right? So we get you started with it's quick results. We get you in the fat burn fast, and we get your metabolism going. And then we have the mindset shift of you got to get into the life book, really start to figure out your relationship, period, relation, all the things, your stressors, your relationship with your kids, your family, all the things, looking in the mirror, taking responsibility for yourself, all those things, right? And then when you can, now all this clarity starts to come. And for me, the perfect transition was I needed all the things, right? Like I didn't want to be 48 pounds overweight anymore. Like I did not like that. You remember me, Eric, when we were young pups looking all good in the gym. Like I did not want to,
Yeah.
once I got it back, I didn't want to lose it. So a big part
Hmm.
for me of why I started coaching was because I needed another barrier. So I couldn't be the guy helping people get healthy back up 48 pounds, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? So my perfect barrier for me was like,
Yeah.
if I start coaching and really start helping people, it's really something for me as well to hold on
Hmm.
to say, hey, you can't, you know, this saying, don't talk about it, be about it. I just had to, it was really that be about it situation for me. So that's why I'm just so fired up. And then it's helping me stay positive because one can say, uh, like, oh, dude, like, you don't look like you have any issues or anything's going on with you. You look all put together on social media. And I said, yes, that's on purpose because I'm not going to sit here and woe is me and tell you all the bad things that's going on with me. But my future self, that's what my future self looks like every day,
Mm.
right? And I'm getting emotional. Sorry.
Don't
But it's that.
apologize for that.
Yeah. It's just. So that's what that is. What that comes from me. That's what my future self is. That person every day, right? That you see, that's motivated. That's the family guy, this and that, helping people get healthy. Like it's all those things. But that's where I always want to be. So that's how I portray it, and that's why my social media looks that way. So no, I don't have it all together, but my future self does, and it's a work in progress, and I'm just continuing to chase that. That's uh that's what we do, man. It's broken individuals like me that finds a health coach like I found, and a guy like me that can help you really get through some things or wherever you need to get to. So yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
told you I was not going to cry today,
Well, thank you
man.
for sharing that,
I don't even
man.
know how that got me.
You're good. You're good. I mean, I think I know why, or at least from my seat, it's that you're not a broken guy. You're a mending guy, and what better person can help people mend than someone that's done it and going through it? And that's the thing, is you're never done. And I think that most people that embrace challenge and self improvement, it's like you're never done, right? It's like Sisyphus pushing that rock up a hill, only to have to start over the next day. And some people might think that was that's the torture, that's the punishment, but you embrace the grind, and you enjoy the view as you get to the top, and just know that's a gift you can do it the next day too. um, One thing I really appreciate about your system, talking about it, is that you're hitting it from all angles. It sounds like, sure, we all know. Like, I mean, you could start Googling or just think about health trends through the years, decades. There's a cool new diet, and it's kind of a recurring thing for something else. But so many people can get on a thing and lose the weight, but you hear it and you see in studies a lot of times it yo-yos back. And I believe it's because they're not addressing the quote unquote root cause, which is mental. It's psychological, it's emotional, maybe social, maybe financial, right? But you're talking about those things, so that you can build the lifestyle, you can do the dramatic change to get that weight loss, which will aid your brain, right? Aid your faculties, and then you can keep hitting it from all angles. So it's working out, but as some will say, it's also working in, and I really appreciate
Right.
that.
Right. And
And
yeah,
your
as you
your wife's
said,
a coach as well, right?
yeah, she's a lot of things. She's a coach. She's a wonderful mom. She's an author. She just released
Yeah.
Claire Extraordinaire for people listening. So a quick
Sweet.
pivot about her. So yeah, so she helps me with the health coaching. That's what we do.
Hmm.
And then she's written a children's book series as well. And so the cool thing about her book series, Eric, because this will be a little spin off in the conversation, and
Yeah.
so the big thing about her, it's real life stories of her growing up. Her dad was a famous music manager, and he died about 8 years ago. And so it's bringing him back to life with her adventures,
Mm,
but she spins the girls into, now it's granddad and the girls traveling the world, life lessons, like all the fun, cool things. But another
mm,
really, really, really cool thing about her book was when we were like looking around, we see a lot of books about black girls, right? Like the black girls, even mixed girls, always the sidekick, always talking about race. Don't touch my hair. I look different. All these things. Proud, whatever, right? It was just all these things was like, it was this
yeah.
narrative of like, why are the children's books like focus so much on race? And so her big thing was, well, I want the black girl to be the star, and she's just a girl. What's wrong with just
Yeah.
being a girl who's black, who's the star,
Yeah.
and we don't ever talk about it? It's just fun adventures of children having a blast and learning some life lessons and traveling the world. Uh, and that's the narrative. There is one, just straight up. That's what it is. So that's I think there's so much power in it, because it's just we don't. It's not a thing. Like you're not different
Hmm.
because you're black. Like you're a kid, just like all the rest of the other kids. Now let's roll. Like that's so
Yeah.
that's what's so lovely about it.
Yeah. I appreciate that insight, and I think that I appreciate that we have a lot of conversations about race and culture. especially these days. But I think it's also wise and meaningful to have the conversation about, are we having too many conversations, right? Or what are the
Mhm.
conversations we're having? Um,
Right.
my daughter is, mixed race, white, and Asian, but it just makes me think about how, she received like the Asian Barbie for her birthday, and it was, very well intended. But I was like,
Right.
for a little bit, I was like, man, I mean, is it weird if she just gets the normal Barbie? Or I shouldn't say normal, right? I'll just say a
Yeah.
white common
Yeah.
Barbie.
The blonde. Yeah.
But she only has
Regular
one, so
Barbie.
it makes me think about that. Yeah, and so this is not a political thing. This is just a conversation where, as a dad, I'm just reflecting on this, because I'll say, like, in my own childhood, like, I loved Bruce Lee, and other than him, there weren't a whole lot of awesome, kid, little boy superhero role models. At least the Ninja Turtles were turtles, so everyone
Right.
could connect with that, right?
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
No, I love that. Thank you for bringing that up. Chris, where can people find you, get in contact with you or your wife for coaching, and then also cap it off with Claire Extraordinaire, and then I'll have the details in the show notes, so no need to spell it out per se.
Okay. Yeah. So Instagram handle is cjgreenie. Just on IG, you'll see this handsome fellow with the bald head and the beard. That's me. Maybe smiling. Can't remember.
You
Uh,
manifested that from
yeah,
your New York
yeah,
undercover days.
I did. I
You didn't
did.
used to be bald.
Did- I didn't. I didn't. It just happened. It was the stress. I don't know. Maybe it's the wife and kids. I always like to blame it on them. Like, y'all did
You
this
look
to
good.
me.
You look good.
What's
You
that?
wear it well, man.
Yeah, at least I
You
got a
look
nice
good. You
head,
wear it
man.
well. Yeah.
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 And on Facebook, it's Chris Greenie. I probably should change that, but that's still like the cop mode in me. Like, hey,
Mm.
don't ever put I'm Bruce Wayne on
Yeah.
Facebook, but no,
Yeah.
it's
They'll never find out who you are, right? So sneaky. Yeah.
yeah. So uh, it's Chris Greenie, and then my wife is KG Wade on Instagram, and then she just Katie Greenwade on Facebook. And then as far as Claire Extraordinaire, you can find that on Amazon. Book 1 and 2 are now available. Uh, Journey to
Mm.
London, Book 1, The Ghost on Bronsby Road. Spooky for you, spooky people out there. Anyways, Book 2. So, yeah, they're out there. They're ready to rock. Come support if you can. We'd love it. And yeah, that's where we are. And Eric will have that stuff posted up.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again, Chris, for your time, for your sharing. A lot of courage sharing that, especially, it is hard in this social media age where people appear to have it all together, right? But we're all
Right.
human. We're all going through our stuff. We all got our stuff, and so I highly appreciate people like yourself that are willing to open up and say, "Hey, like, I don't got it all together, but here's what I've done. Here's what I've seen. Here's what I've learned to do, and here's how I can help." And I think it's going to take a lot more of that. I think we need a lot more coaches, mentors, um, in just health space, in life space. Life's complicated, so I don't think that I have it all figured out. I don't think I'm gonna have it all figured out for my life. I'm gonna need to lean on people like yourself. I'm gonna need to lean on and find mentors, and be open to things. So thanks so much, if you're listening in. For whatever the multitude of things we've covered, please share it out. Uh, all these messages are helpful, and I know that this is going to be very helpful for a lot of people. So please share the podcast. Share out Chris's info. Again, it's going to be in the show notes. So just click on that and scroll down and find them on Insta and Facebook and all the good stuff. Find that book. Sounds fantastic.
Yeah, get it for your daughter. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like
man.
a 9-year-old reading level, but these can be read too, or just collect them because it's going to be awesome.
Yeah,
You heard it here.
that's
All
great. I'm down. I'm down,
right,
man. All right. Well,
all
thanks
right,
again for tuning in. Share it out. And thank you, Chris.
all right, Eric. Thank you. Have a good one.
You too, man.